Nigel, thank you very much for joining us at your event, CEO of the Scottish Hydrogen Fuel Cell Association. I'd like you to talk first off a little bit about what you are trying to achieve here in Aberdeen with your two-day event, and then something about the kind of key messages behind that, if that's okay. So if we start with Aberdeen, and why Aberdeen?
Aberdeen has really been almost like a cradle for growing the use of hydrogen. They started in 2014 with some very clear ambitions of being part of the energy transition. And they've actually brought in hydrogen fuel cell buses in 2015. They've got a fleet of vehicles which has been running around Aberdeen, so street sweepers, refuse trucks, actually making things work. So it's not just about an idea, it's about the delivery. They've also had probably one of the best refuelers, not just in the UK, but in Europe in terms of the reliability. So the Kitty Brewster refueler has been operating since 2015. And all of this is about really just giving people confidence that hydrogen is here and hydrogen works. What's nice here, Dan, is that the relationships actually in some way mirror the membership of our association. So we have clearly companies who are involved in the hydrogen sector, but we also have city authorities, local authorities, we have universities and colleges. And in Aberdeen, we've got all of these groups represented. So City of Aberdeen Council, clearly as a leader in actually helping the projects move. We've got companies in Aberdeen like Hydrosun who are taking a very proactive approach in helping to develop not just the market, but also the skills for hydrogen.
So as ETZ Limited, we're really keen to come and talk about partnerships for growth because that's the basis on which we've been built. So for us, in terms of the region, Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire, capturing the opportunity in hydrogen, it needs people to work together. So as ETZ Limited, we've worked together with the local councils, with local Scottish Government, UK Government, with the private sector and with other public sector agencies. And it's that combined working that's really going to help deliver the hydrogen economy, which there's so much to do, huge opportunity, but needs a lot of work and a lot of working together. So the campus model is about providing the land and enabling works to support new investment by companies or to allow companies to expand. So for example, we have the ETZ Hydrogen Campus that's in planning at the moment. We hoped for that to come to fruition in the next 2 to 3 years. And that will look to cluster like-minded companies together, all focused on hydrogen. So for example, we're planning a green hydrogen test and demonstration facility. We're looking at attracting a hydrogen electrolyser manufacturer and then attracting other supply chain companies around about that. So we've got this real clustering of companies involved in hydrogen, sharing their knowledge and expertise and providing a real sort of focal point for accelerating the hydrogen economy.
Mark, thanks very much for joining us on day 2 of the Hydrogen Festival. How's it been for you so far?
It's been a really good conference, lots of opportunities for networking and some really interesting presentations.
Excellent. So you were on stage earlier on as part of a panel session talking about some of the kind of key themes that are happening in this space at the moment. Can you kind of summarize what they were from your perspective, please?
Yeah, sure. So I was talking about the role of collaboration and partnerships in scaling up hydrogen. I took a kind of an overarching view of positioning the UK and Scotland globally in terms of the size and scale of the aspiration and the size and scale of the market. I then looked at the role of hubs as a real engine for driving collaboration to de-risk projects, allow investment decisions to be taken. And I compared the way the UK hubs are developing with what we're seeing internationally. So I did a little comparison between, for example, Australia, India, Europe and the US with our UK hubs.
So you're managing director of EMEC up in Orkney, a variety of projects going on up there, some of which are hydrogen, other wave related. Can you just touch on a few of those projects that are hydrogen related and give us a kind of overview of what you're doing up there, please?
Yeah, so we started off working on hydrogen a few years ago, mainly because the grid is inadequate for taking the energy we're harvesting out of the sea. So we have put a 0.5 megawatt electrolyser, which was upgraded to a just 670 kilowatt electrolyser. And the idea behind that is we can take tidal energy that we couldn't otherwise put into the grid, turn it to hydrogen, and then do something with it. But what is that something? So we've ended up using it in different ways. So there's now a combined heat and power unit out at the airport where we're providing electrical load or electrical generation for the airport for their peaks, and also waste heat to go into the terminal. And we've also done other projects trying to get hydrogen aboard vessels, and we've done some work with aviation. And that's really been a big breakthrough moment for us, which is the aviation side, where we had a company called IGTL, who are based in Aberdeen, and working with Zero Petroleum, and they actually produced synthetic gasoline using our electrolytic hydrogen and their carbon monoxide, and brought them together, produced synthetic gasoline, which is then supplied to the RAF for their first ever fully synthetically fueled flight. And that really was a breakthrough for us, because we saw that the act of taking renewables, making hydrogen, but then making synthetic liquid fuels that are not fossil liquid fuels really gives us a chance to do some of the things that really we're not seeing going to be possible with just straight electrification, or not seeing that gaseous hydrogen is going to do. So that's been our big breakthrough. And the third thing that's really been going on, we're just finishing off now, is we put a big flow battery in, a vanadium flow battery from Invinity, and that battery is there to support electrolysis when the tides slow down. So we're starting to look to using renewables to produce a constant output of hydrogen. So there's a lot going on in that space at the moment.
You're running a schools engagement program. Well, why don't you tell everybody what you're doing?
Sure. So I run the Ballard Motive Solutions education program. So I've been delivering public engagement and education with hydrogen and fuel cells for over 11 years, mainly geared towards young people, but also general public, working with companies, working at science festivals, and all over the world, really.
But the aim of this is really to educate the younger generation as to the potential of hydrogen fuel cells.
Absolutely. So we're really trying to make people understand, young people understand, that this is an industry that is very prevalent in Scotland in particular, that this is a career that they might want to get into, and really connecting them with both students and companies that are currently involved in the sector.
Excellent. So we've not long finished with your session that you're involved with, but before that we need to congratulate you for the recent green light with the ACON project. Just give us an overview of where you're at with that now.
Well, we're absolutely delighted. ACON, as many people will know, was given a Track 1 reserve status for the government's carbon capture and storage licensing rounds, essentially. And we were waiting for quite a while to see whether that would sort of materialise into anything. And now we've been delighted to be selected into the Track 2 process. So essentially where we are right now is we are starting conversations with DESNZ around what that process will look like, how do we evolve and negotiate the terms of what that arrangement and support mechanisms will look like. And then from an ACON hydrogen perspective, that also now means that we'll be into the phase 2 of that Track 2 process, and we'll be submitting an application like all of the other emitters for an award of also government support towards producing blue hydrogen at St Fergus.
Very exciting. And more widely than that, as we recently learned, a lot of people associate Storegga with the ACON project, but you are managing director of the green hydrogen that Storegga are involved with. So I think I'd like to talk a little bit about what your footprint is in that area, if at all possible.
Yeah, and you're quite right. Lots of people think, particularly in this part of the world, associate Storegga with lead developer of the ACON project. But we have a green hydrogen portfolio as well here in North East Scotland. The most advanced of those projects is the Cromarty Green Hydrogen Project, which is a partnership with Scottish Power. And it is really targeting the decarbonisation of the whisky distilling sector. We've been very fortunate to be selected as part of the hydrogen allocation round 1 to progress through the government due diligence process, and now we're into negotiations. So we're really hoping that we manage to land a contract for difference that will enable us to take a final investment decision next year and get first production of hydrogen in 2026. So that's the first and most advanced of our projects. It very much is a starter. We're looking at it as a regional hub model where we start with a first module, which is relatively small, but we grow that up to 300 megawatts as the customer demand in the region grows.
Perfect. Very passionate. Love to hear you earlier on stage, and that was no different then. So thanks very much for talking to us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.